Hey, everybody, it's Dr. Kieran, and today we're going to talk about hormonal prosperity. What is it? Well, you're probably familiar with financial prosperity, just like we've been talking about financial poverty and hormonal poverty. Financial poverty is when you don't have the money to fund your living expenses, and hormonal poverty is when you don't have the hormones to fund your body's living expenses. Financial prosperity is when you have the funds to fund your living expenses and needs, and maybe a little more to enjoy life. And it's the same with hormonal prosperity. When you have hormonal prosperity, you have the hormonal resources to get that correct communication to all your cells and all your systems so that your metabolism functions optimally, which means your weight normalizes and your energy improves. It means that your body has the funds to do repairs and fix problems. It has the ability to give you healthy neurotransmitter balance, so your moods are balanced, and memory function, and grow hair and eyelashes, and do all the things that make you feel good in your body, make you function optimally, make you feel good and empowered. So that is what hormonal prosperity is. I talk with so many women who just don't get the actual impact or consequence of the hormonal situation that they're living in. And it's not their fault. It's what we doctors have taught you to believe, that you need to only be concerned about what is the diagnosis, what is the symptom, what drug do I need to do, what surgery do I need, what is my stage of life called, right? And then we look at the perspective of, oh, am I in menopause? Am I not? Am I in perimenopause? Am I not? Do I have PCOS or do I not? Right? We're looking for what is the diagnosis. And then based on that diagnosis, what we don't understand is that our choices to fix the true problem become limited. So if I believe that I'm in perimenopause and I don't ask an empowering question like, am I in hormonal poverty, or where am I on the menopause spectrum? A question that gets at the underlying cause. And I'm just looking for the diagnosis. Then I go, aha, I got it. I'm in perimenopause. And then everything that we talk about and look for, our field of vision goes like this. And all we're going to see is, am I in perimenopause or not? And then if we go to our mainstream medical care providers, we're going to want to know, how can I tell if I'm in perimenopause or not? Okay, is there a test? Okay, a blood test, right? Let me do the blood test. Okay, they couldn't tell me, so the blood test that they typically do for perimenopause is very nonspecific. It can tell you if you're menopausal and if you're not near perimenopause, but other than that, there's kind of this gray area where you're in it and you might be in it, but we're not really sure. Everybody's scratching their head. And then you're funneled into very specific treatment regimens for the symptoms that you're having, right? Crazy, irregular crime scene periods, maybe ovarian cyst, difficulty sleeping, weight gain, many of the symptoms of midlife metabolic mayhem. And then you get funneled in, oh, that's the reason why. And then you only have these treatment alternatives available to you: birth control pills, hormone-containing intrauterine devices. Maybe they'll give you an antidepressant because your mood is a little off and you feel irritable, or you have PMDD or PMS. They're going to treat all your symptoms and tell you, oh, you have this diagnosis, and then we're going to treat all the symptoms. But that doesn't restore hormonal prosperity. It doesn't fix the reason why you're having the symptoms. Right? And so it doesn't afford you or offer you true health and healing that's available if you would drop back and look at where am I on the menopause spectrum, which spans from the cradle to the grave, right? You've got hormones your whole life, so you're somewhere on that spectrum. We should call it the hormonal spectrum is what we should call it. But because primarily women over 40 are the ones really suffering, and that was my story, is where I focus. But anybody listening know that this is cradle to the grave. So you don't want to take this myopic perspective. What you want to do at the outset is take a very global perspective. And one of the first things I like to have people do when I start working with you is to do an inventory of what are all the symptoms that you're having and what are all the systems that could be effective. And then we've got to look at all of these and turn over all the rocks, read all the tea leaves, get all the data that then informs us about what we need to fix at a root cause approach to fix all those symptoms, not because we gave a drug to suppress them. So mainstream medicine doesn't say, oh, what's the cause, right? Well, they'll say, oh, you're in perimenopause. That's the cause of your crazy periods. That's the cause of your weight gain. That's the cause of your insomnia. That's the cause. And then they will proceed to try to medicate all of these different symptoms with drugs. You know what I'm talking about? They do the prescription tango. I used to do it in my office when I practiced regular OBGYN. So some of you have experienced this, I know, with your providers. And you leave with a fistful of prescriptions, and it never really restores you to the optimal functioning that you're seeking, where you say, I feel good in my skin again. I feel like myself. And it actually was a patient of mine. I call her Gina Davis because she looks a little bit like Gina Davis. And also Gina Davis had her own health struggles at midlife. And so she really represented, to keep her anonymity, I talk about her like she's Gina Davis. And I was doing the midlife prescription tango with her. She says, Dr. Kieran, my hair is falling out. I can't lose this last 30 pounds. I just seem to keep gaining. I can't sleep at night. I'm snapping at people. I don't feel like myself. My periods are irregular and heavy. I'm passing clots. I don't know what to do. I don't feel like myself. What should I do? My gut's all disturbed. If I eat, I don't know what's going to happen to what I eat. And I gave her a bunch of prescriptions, birth control pill to help with her periods. I gave her antidepressant, antispasmodic for her gut, and told her, come back and see me in 3 months, because that's kind of what we call the test of cure. And people come back and then we evaluate them and maybe we'll change up the medications. Standard of care in regular OBGYN is not to check hormone levels, right? And the party line, which is really a lie, is that there's no normal values, and that's just not true. So they won't do any of that. And I didn't used to do any of that. And she came back and she said, well, yeah, my period's not happening now on the birth control pill. And so a few things of the symptoms were better, but she says, I still just can't lose all this weight and I don't feel like myself and I just don't feel good. And I didn't have anything else to offer her besides other medications. And she said, no, I just don't feel like that's right. So she went away. I didn't see her for a year. She came back for her annual exam the next year. And I saw her at the end of the hall, and oh my gosh, she looked like a different woman. Her hair was full, the light was back on in her eyes. She had lost that 30 pounds. She had a pep in her step and a confidence. And I couldn't wait to get her into an exam room and find out what she had done, because she was a walking billboard for whatever it was she had done. So I got her in and I said, what did you do? Because it looks like things have changed. And she said, oh my gosh, I haven't felt better than I have in 25 years. And I found this doctor who did tests you never did with me and looked at the underlying cause of my symptoms and did treatments you never offered me. And I feel amazing. And I didn't take any of those prescriptions after the 3 months that we tried them. And so that was really what started my journey. I said, well, she's a walking billboard. Obviously, there's something she knows that I don't know. And I really had become teachable by that point, because I had been told by the highest certifying board in the world that I knew more about women's health than anybody else. But clearly, I was a walking billboard for not health, for unhealthy, for sick. And so were all my patients at midlife who were struggling with the same problems. So I said, I'm going to research this and I'm going to find out as much as I can. And I kind of made this promise that if this works, I'm going to use it on myself and see if it works. And if it works, I'm going to spend the rest of my life teaching other women about this. And that's why we're here right now, because it works. And so that's why my life's purpose is to help you really get out of that prescription tango, out of that funnel vision. What is the diagnosis? What drug do I need to give? What drug do I need to take? What surgery, right? Just get out of that myopic worldview and get into this expanded view that understands that it's not just one diagnosis, it's not one thing, it's a why thing. Why? And the why is never simple, right? You probably know this from your own life. What is a way more easier question to ask? But when you ask why, you get into this world that isn't black or white. And that's true about hormonal poverty and hormonal prosperity. It's not one thing. We are holistic. We said we moved into the holistic age a long time ago, but we didn't really. And this is how we move into it is we ask why. We're kind of like 2-year-olds. Why? But why? But why? But why? Oh, maybe the cortisol's depleted. Well, why? Oh, because DHEA is depleted. And well, why? And you've just got to go why forever. And get this more expanded view, recognizing that the symptoms that you have are like signposts pointing to the problem. They are not the problem itself, just like I talked about the water on the floor. If you missed that, go back and watch that video. So we don't want to just be medicating symptoms. We want to find the why. And that allows us to identify hormonal impoverishment. Just like in order to detect financial impoverishment, you've got to go in and you've got to see how much money do you have in your savings? How much do you owe on this credit card? When I first came out of medical school and residency, I had a lot of debt and not a lot of money. Maybe some of you can relate. I didn't come from a wealthy family. I had to get student loans all the way through college and high school. I always had a job in college. I'm not sorry, college and med school. I always had a job. They called it work study back then. I used to lifeguard in college. Then I bartended, I waitressed, even when I was in medical school. And when I came out of residency, I was responsible for my family's financial well-being. I had a lot of debt. And then I had to supply my family with all these things that they needed, right? Food, clothing, housing. And I looked at this small amount of money that I was going to make in the job that I got after residency, and it wasn't enough to cover my expenses. And so I had to get what they call it a credit counselor to come in and help me look at all of these things, right? How much do you owe on this credit card, this credit card, this credit card? How much do you have? I had gotten gift of some bonds, I think, when I graduated college. So, excuse me, how much did I have there in savings? Not much. What were my living expenses for the kids, for the family? And I had to rearrange some things. I had to ask, why am I financially strapped and impoverished? And what do I need to do about all of these different things? It would have been no help for me to go to the financial counselor and they said, what's the problem? Well, I don't have enough money to meet my living expenses. And they said, diagnosis, financial poverty, right? What's the answer? There's no answer if the diagnosis is a symptom of underlying causes. It's just not helpful. But we seem to not understand that in medicine. But what I want you to get is you would understand if I just went to the financial advisor or the credit counselor and they said, oh, eureka, you're financially impoverished. The what doesn't give you the plethora of solutions available when you look at the underlying reasons why. Is it because I have too much credit card debt and that's why? Is it because I have too much student loans? Is it because my housing expenses are too high? Is it because I'm buying exorbitant groceries, or maybe I'm squandering money, or maybe I'm paying for other family members in my extended family? Like, what, you have to look at all these factors. And like I said, I think you understand that with a financial counselor, but you don't understand it when it comes to your health. And so what I really want you to understand is, if you're just asking what questions, you will never experience the help that is available to you when you start asking why questions. So the big umbrella is hormonal poverty. If you're a woman over 40, frankly, like I said, if you're a woman over 20 or even younger, I've seen this in teenagers, then you're having health symptoms, by definition, you have some form of or degree of hormonal impoverishment. And our job, my job, is to go in and help you unpack the why. What are all the reasons that you have personally? And let's elevate those and fix those. So like if it's the financial advisor, if it's too much credit card debt, okay, cut up all your credit cards. They had me do this, and throw them in the trash so you can't use them. Simple answer, you can only use a debit card. And you stop accruing more credit. And then you contact the credit card companies. And you probably didn't know you were going to get financial advice here. Well, you are. And you contact all the credit card companies and you say, I got myself in a pickle coming out of med school and residency. And what can I negotiate with you in terms of a lower interest fee or a payment plan or something like that? That's one of the things you do. So it's the same with your health. Like if you've got a cortisol problem, I'm not going to be like the financial advisor, and your regular doctor won't even check your cortisol because it's not standard of care. Unless you're in the ICU and you have some life-threatening illness, it's generally not checked. And then when it is checked, it's not even checked in the correct way. And we'll talk about this more in other videos. So you've got to understand, what are all the factors? Is it too much going out financially and not enough coming in? How is it going out? Where is the problem here? Maybe you've got money sitting around, but it's not earning any interest, right? There's so many different factors. And it's the same with your health. So if you've got a cortisol problem, you've got to say, okay, what? Hormonal poverty, but then why? What are all the hormones that are impoverished? And then once you figure that out, why are they impoverished? And you've got to look at all of the 7 main metabolic hormones individually to figure that out. And then you can address them so you can get to hormonal prosperity. And we talked about how the hormones are the communicators in your body. They're part of your nervous system function. So if communication doesn't happen, nothing happens. And particularly your hormones are about communicating around your metabolism, which has to do with your weight and energy. Weight and energy. Weight is connected to your energy directly. I like to think of it like a bow tie that you wear. And in the middle is the little center of the bow tie that has to do with your metabolism. And that is determined directly by your hormones. And if your metabolism isn't working right, you can't change the fat on your body weight, or the food that you eat is also calories, into energy, which we talked about is ATP. And then that ATP gives your body energy to fix things, grow hair, fix your memory, your mood. All the things that you want happen inside hormonal prosperity. So you've got to stop asking what questions, start asking why questions. Could I be in hormonal poverty? Take my quiz to get an idea of if I could be talking about you. Takes less than 2 minutes online to do. There's a link somewhere in the show notes and you can click that. That'll get you started. Could this be me? Could this isn't me? We'll have more videos coming out for you, as well as the podcast. And then I've also got the challenge to support you in really diving deep into where are your unique issues, why. That's the first level of why. And get to hormonal prosperity, because everything you want with your health in your life happens inside hormonal prosperity. If you are not in hormonal prosperity, nothing you want happens. That's where only bad things happen. Like, you know how they say nothing good happens after 9 o'clock at night? You say to your teenager, why do you need to be out at night? Nothing good happens after 9 o'clock. Nothing good happens inside hormonal poverty. Everything you want for your health, the healing, the weight, the energy, the mood, the memory, the hair, the sex drive, the gut function, the no autoimmune disease, the decreased risk of cancer, the prolonged lifespan, the decreased incidence of disease, heart disease, hypertension, Alzheimer's, osteoporosis, macular degeneration, blindness, all the things happen when you have hormonal prosperity. You avoid all of that. You mitigate all of that because you fixed the why that is the why that causes all of these problems. You know, I just don't want you to fall victim to what so many humans and women believe, that disease just comes out of the blue or comes from your genes. And that's just not true, right? Genetics is only about 5% of most of what happens to our health, 5, maybe 10%. It's all these other things that we're unaware of. And I don't want you to be subject to hormonal poverty going to a mainstream provider because you think that they're tuning you up to have the best health possible, and that's not what they're about. It's about disease identification and management. Management never meant promotion. Management never meant vitality creation. It just doesn't mean that. It means we're going to look for disease once it's already happened, pretty much. We're going to try and find it early. And then once we find it, we're going to manage it with drugs and surgery. But if you're like me and like most of the women I work with, you want more health than that in order to have vitality and really have the same functioning as you age as you did at 20, so that you can live a prosperous hormonal life, prosperous financial life, prosperous creative life, prosperous interactive life with your community, with your family, with your friends. You want to have the best health possible to experience hashtag WWHPD. What would hormonal prosperity do? So start thinking about how you will spend this hormonal prosperity that you're creating as you start addressing your hormonal poverty. And I look forward to hearing your list. Take the quiz, get started. You can click the link, join me for the challenge. Love to have you and interact some more. Thanks so much for joining me. We'll be talking in more depth about what these different midlife metabolic mayhem symptoms mean. And maybe you just don't get, how is my weight related to my hormones? Because that's not something that a lot of people understand. Maybe if you have PMS and you have water retention around then, we get it. But I don't think most women really understand why weight is a hormonal poverty issue or why energy is. And I think these are the top 1 and 2 symptoms of midlife metabolic mayhem that the majority of women share. So we're going to be diving deeper into that in some of the next videos. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you next time. Until then, peace, love, and hormones, y'all.